And what was the process like after, you going through those first three
Rejections.
Yeah, those first three rejections. What was the process like in getting that book? Like, you're like, okay, what did you kind of do in order to change that story to make it kind of be like, okay, this is actually going to go with a publisher?
Well, so I was with I joined the Society of Children Writer. This is SCBWI, the Society of Children Book Writers and Illustrators, which is a sort of loose organization, and they have like these little writers retreats and stuff like that, and you can meet these editors there, or agent or whatever. And I went this one year, and there was an editor there who I had sent my 3 novels to, and she had rejected all 3 of them. And we were all at dinner one night, and people were like, trying to,
Schmooze.
schmooze her and whatever. And she turns around, she goes, "Oh, well, Cecil always sends me books, and I always reject her." And I was just like, "Yeah, that's me." And I felt like a big loser. But there was this part at the conference or the retreat where you could read 10 pages aloud from your book, and she would sort of do an on-the-fly critique, maybe it was 5 pages. And I read the first 5 pages of Boy Proof, and after the session was over, she pulled me aside and she said, "I just realized I'm the wrong editor for you." She was like, "Send me this book and I'll walk it down the hall to someone who I think might be a good match for you." So I did. By that time, I'd had an agent. And so I said to my agent, "Can you send it to Liz, and she's going to walk it down the hall?" And sure enough, like 2 weeks later, I sold that book.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah. So I think the lesson that I learned was that rejections don't necessarily mean rejections. Like, it's just sort of that sometimes an editor is not the right fit for you, and that editors who reject you can still be your biggest cheerleaders. And to this day, she's still a big cheerleader of mine. I mean, like she's never bought a book for me.
That's so cool.
But I see her at conferences, and
you guys remain friends, and you guys and she's helped you. It's funny how the networking it takes place in so many different ways, and you just never imagine that one day you're going to be like, "I've been submitting to you." You're like, "Yeah, but if you submitted it to this person who's right down, they'd be like, 'Oh yeah, you're in right away.'"
Right, and also it was the fact that she I think also it's like what's really hard to remember is that publishers, especially, they're looking for reasons to say no.
Of course.
And so it's a hard thing, and I don't think that she would have done that if she hadn't have seen some kind of potential or voice or something in there, so it's like you have to do your work and you have to do your due diligence on your end, but you also have to realize that people are looking for reasons to say no, and you need to be matched with someone who's going to go in and fight for that, so
you need someone to go in and champion your project.
Yeah.
And it's funny because it's like Jim Lee has posted his letters of getting rejected over and over again, and it's just that's kind of the growing struggle. Even Bendis, everyone who's done it has gone through and been rejected over and over again, and they've gone through.
Yeah. And I mean, but then I'm going to jump ahead of what you're going to ask me. But Boy Proof in the book, Victoria/Egg, she goes by Egg, is obsessed with comic books as well, more specifically Vertigo comic books. And Shelley Bond, when she was trying to put together the Minx line, which was a line for graphic novels for girls back in 2006, she read Boy Proof and thought, "Oh, this girl is writing about Vertigo comics, and like maybe she wants to write comics." And so that's how I got a phone call from Shelley saying, "Hi, my name's Shelley. I'm wondering if you might be interested in writing comics." And I'd been trying to figure out how to break into comics. So, so that book sort of, brought it all together. Yeah.
The universe has a way of working things out for you, because you mention it in your books and you were mentioning their specific line.
Yeah.
When most people write about comics, they would go, "Oh, I'm interested in writing for Batman or Superman." But the fact that you were like, "I'm writing for DC," a Vertigo editor, and Shelley reached out to you.
Yeah. And what had happened was that like I had read a book called The Dead Enders by Ed Brubaker, and which was on Vertigo. And I, when I saw it, I really read it, and I was like, "This is a YA comic book." I was like, "I want to do that." because I already loved comics, but so there was no Google then, so it was like Alta Vista or whatever, and I would like search like how do you submit to Vertigo Comics, because I knew that was where my sort of heart was, and I couldn't figure it out. There was like artist stuff, and then I was just like, oh, well, I guess I'll never be a comic book writer, and that's that. So when Shelley called, I was like, oh, yes, I love the Dead Enders. And Shelley was like, I edited the Dead Enders. So that was like another, like,
I love it.
Yeah, I know. It was just like crazy.
Another weird connection.
Simpatico.
Exactly.
Yeah.